it's Leanna back again with part 2 of my catching up and interview with Sunny. Hey, Sunny, thanks for stopping by today.
Hey, Leanna, happy Friday. Happy
Happy
part two.
Friday. Yes. So Sunny is always up to some really interesting things. But before we jump into that, Sunny, can you remind everybody just really quick what it is that you do?
Yeah, I am a marketing director at Pre-Hired, and we help people get into full-time tech sales careers. So we're kind of like a boot camp, but we're really lifetime membership. So we have a career launch program and then a career lifetime membership program to help people continue to level up in tech sales. And as you know, I'm an ads nerd, an analytics nerd, and just a marketing enthusiast overall.
Yeah. And if you want to connect with Sunny, I've put his LinkedIn profile up on the screen there because that's his preferred way of you reaching out to him. So that's really cool. So yeah, Sunny, like what have you got going on? Again, you always have something interesting, either like something you're reading or you're testing or you're working on.
I'm obsessed with learning. So I study about 30 hours of content a week on top of just working because I have my headphones on when I'm around the house, just whether I'm washing clothes or making a smoothie or whatever, and I just can't get enough. I'm just obsessed. I even have my microphone here. I don't have a microphone stand yet. I have it on a stack of books. Just always got to keep learning, right? So when you're testing, when I do a lot of testing and I see all these different numbers, and what we all gotten used to is just seeing these big drop offs between every stage of our funnels. And it just causes me to really think what goes on in people's minds that causes them to drop off. And the biggest thing that I can ever think of is trust. So that'd be
Right.
cool just to talk about that and get your perspective and just share thoughts, because we all deal with this, whether you're a marketer for a living or just a business person, or even if you're not a business person, we all have the same issues with trust. Like if someone doesn't know you, and we were talking about just before we got on here, the speed of trust, Stephen Covey's work, Stephen M.R. Covey, the son of the great Stephen Covey. Business really moves at the speed of trust and life moves at the speed of trust. So there's such a powerful concept.
It really is. And I think that's something that I thought was really interesting because a lot of times people feel like trust is just, it has to do with your integrity, but it really does speed up everything. I really liked the examples in Stephen Covey's book where he talked about the like the takeovers or the merger deals. I think, was it with Walmart or like anyway, like large companies, which I know can take forever to
Yes.
get through, right? And when there's trust, they didn't have to do as much work to double check everything. I mean, it just went through.
Yeah, that was a great example in the book. I think it was Walmart taking over another company.
Uh-huh.
And I
Yeah.
think uh, it was able to happen so much easier. Like you said, they didn't do all the due diligence, which would have taken months and cost millions and millions of dollars
Right.
and hard cost. And then you look at the opportunity cost of being able to spend those resources somewhere else and the return you could have gotten doing that. There's a huge, huge cost when you count that. So at the same time, he talks about that in the context of what he calls smart trust, which is certain factors that are in place that would cause you to be able to trust that situation. For example, Walmart's a big public company. I think the other company might have been a public company as well. The CEOs had the reputations to protect. Whereas if you had a company that was not nearly as well known and it wasn't public and they could easily get away with something, then it wouldn't have been as smart to extend that trust in that case. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a really cool concept too. And I think he could go even more into that concept because a lot of us are not sure in a given situation, when is it smart to trust and when is it not smart to
Yeah.
trust. So by default, people just don't trust. They're always looking for a reason to say no. They come in, they see your landing page, they see your ad, and they're immediately thinking, well, by default, this is probably a scam. So it's really the opposite of the justice system in general. And like in North America, you have this concept of you're innocent until proven guilty, whereas in business, you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent,
That's a good point.
right?
That's a good
So
point.
like at Pre-Hired, we get comments every day on our ads and emails back saying sounds like a scam, especially for us because we sound too good to be true. We hear that phrase a lot. We have this offer where you don't have to pay anything. We invest thousands of dollars in training people and mentoring people until they get a job months later. And then they start to pay what's called an income share agreement. And that's not a concept many people have heard about. So it's not a concept. It's not a category in their brains. And so when people don't know what category to put something in their brains, this all happens mostly unconsciously. It just goes in this category of danger. Well, maybe it's probably a scam because I don't recognize what this is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but even people or companies that don't have a new category, they are constantly defending themselves, you know? Like, there's got to be a better way to do all of this, because even with reviews, people are like, well, these reviews might be faked. There's so many fake reviews online. So it's really a huge challenge.
It is, and I think a lot of times we just think of it. Well, at least I have. I sort of think of it at the end of the funnel. Where you're looking at your order form and making sure you've got your trust icons there, the security icons, and all that stuff. But I think it's really helpful to think about it all the way through, because people buy from who they know, like, and trust, right? And in today's world, I mean, everything can be faked, right? There's even that guy, I don't know if you've seen him, but he's on TikTok and he does these amazing deep fakes of Tom Cruise.
I
I think he did
saw
it
that.
so well, right? That Marvel hired him or something like that. I can't remember, but
I can't tell the difference. I'm so
right?
stunned by it. I'm just like, how is this possible?
So we can't, like, there's so much stuff we can't trust, but yet, I mean, I do work with people. I've seen it work in funnels where there is trust. I mean, I see some people go through very quickly. Now, a lot of times I've seen it where it's an external factor because their friends told them about it and they're like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to go buy it. So the trust isn't actually coming from the funnel. I'd be interested to hear what you think you've been doing or testing to try and improve that trust factor through the funnel, as opposed to just hoping and praying, hey, one of their friends tells them about it, and then they just decide to buy.
Yeah, this part of it is just, you know how they say entering the I think it was Robert Collier, the famous copywriter, said enter the conversation in the prospect's head. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. And what I do is I try to break that pattern. I enter that conversation as probably a scam, and I try to break that pattern. So I say, hey, make sure to check out our negative reviews. Make sure to read all of them. And then really see if you think this might be for you after you read those, and make sure to come and ask us any questions you have about anything you read. And that's not something that most companies will say.
Mm-hmm.
So most companies are trying to protect their image, and all of us are. We all want to look smart. We all want to look like we have everything together. And the reality is that none of us do. So the more and this really gets to the personal growth part, the more I grow and become vulnerable as a person, the more I can do that on the company's behalf to say, this particular thing, like, we don't have 100% positive reviews. Some people love negative reviews. Here's what we think, but you take a look, you see what you think.
Right.
So when you do that kind of thing, where you try to be transparent, it definitely helps. And then if you can, things you were saying, external factors, where, like, for example, the income share agreement, people are kind of wary of it because they don't know what the concept is. I tell them, we didn't invent this. I think the credit goes to Lambda School, which was one of the first coding boot camps, and they're pretty well known. So when you start saying things like that, they say, oh, well, I've heard of Lambda School. So it's almost leveraging their credibility in the space. They've been around for many years and they've been teaching and all of that, right? So anything you can do to latch on to other people's credibility, there is that transference of trust, or this famous person or this person that many people trust, this cultural icon, they think that this is a new model of education that makes sense, and quote from them. There's so many things, but even then it's challenging, honestly.
Right. Yeah. And I think what's also interesting too is, like, the area you're in. So you're in an area, I think, where a lot of people just, you say, hey, look at our negative reviews. That's great. I've been involved in sort of some local businesses where the negative reviews are actually, we knew this was true. They had competitors who were writing untrue things about them, in negative reviews. So they didn't really have that option, because pointing to the negative reviews were just so horrible, but they weren't even true. So, we had to basically come up with other ways. Like, for me, I solve the problem, or I try and solve the problem, with content marketing. So I try and just put a whole bunch of other content in front of them, so that I'm not just entering the conversation that's in their minds. I'm, like, literally renting space in their brain. So they're always seeing the brand, or they're always seeing something there and associating it with hopefully something positive. So that by the time they see the offer, it's sort of like their subconscious thinking, oh, you know what? They seem pretty legit. Like that's sort of just been my kind of default, but it's a lot of work because you got to create all that content, right, to put in front of them.
Yeah, content marketing is definitely a great way to build trust, because even if they don't consume most of it, they see that you're putting it out, and they associate that with a legit company. Like legit companies put out content, they try to educate people, even if I'm not consuming most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it is challenging. Like I have my challenges with that because small team, etc. But it's something you have to do in order to scale, because people just value that.
Sure.
But I'm curious on your end. Are you doing the like paid media to content and then retargeting people who view that content? Because the metrics of that are often hard to get to work.
It is. It is. I mean, yeah, it's often hard just to draw, like to have a nice clean line and say, oh, they saw these three things, and then they saw this ad and they bought. That would be an ideal world.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. But I do like the reason I'll use paid is just because a lot of times I'm trying to get offers out there and people to buy faster. So if I had lots of time and I could wait for all the organic stuff to work, then, I would definitely do that. But I just use paid to try and speed up the process. And also so I can test better things, because sometimes I'll even put out, like I'm doing a campaign right now for an e-com business, and I noticed that when I put out certain videos, I've been testing videos in video view ads. Some people actually, I can see there's a purchase for people who watch that video. So that tells me, oh, that video actually is educational, builds trust, and got them to buy something. So that's a great video. And I'm just going to keep scaling that up, like getting that in front of more people. So that's sort of one of my clues there, in terms of what also may help. But the other thing I'll do is I'll just be intentional about the type of content I put out in front of people. So I'm always telling people, don't just put stuff out there. Think about like the mindset you want people to be in when they see the offer. So it's not just trust, right? It has to be a certain pain point, and maybe they have to be comfortable with, like you said, the income agreement, so it just doesn't feel too weird. And then I'll work backwards from there. Okay, what content do I need to put out there to educate them about it? Maybe I have to create a video or a blog post about how that is sort of common in the area, and like that's something you need to look out for, and how beneficial it is for you. And then when they see the offer and they see income agreement, it doesn't throw them and they don't think it's a scam, or it's something like you're trying to pull the wool over their eyes or something like that, because they're not familiar with it.
Yeah, to reduce the injections before they even see the
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah.
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 So you're doing that with video view ads. I mean,
Primarily. Yeah.
I've really not succeeded. I love the concept of doing that, and I just haven't really succeeded with it yet.
Mhm.
Like, especially retargeting the video views. Again, I love the concept of it, but every time I retarget the video views, not much happens.
So
But when I go
I
for
found
straight
that.
conversions,
Yeah.
yeah, what has been your experience with that, and how did you get around that?
Well, so again, I've been successful where, you do like one video or a couple videos and then you just retarget those videos. I haven't been ever that successful with it. And maybe that has to be done at a much bigger scale than I've ever been doing. But what I do is when I retarget, I just lump all the warm audience into one big audience. Like every single video view, website visitors, engagement. And the only thing I can do is compare campaigns. And the campaigns that consistently do well are the ones also that their social media is very engaged as well. And they've got like a lot of video views and people are visiting the website. I mean, so, it's definitely in the conversation, or actually in a lot of people's heads once they see the offer. And on other campaigns where, people just totally ignore their Facebook page, like nothing is happening, it looks kind of dead, and they're only doing ads, I just find that it's harder to get the conversions on there. So again, it's just sort of like, it's not a direct, measurement, but to me, it's almost like cause and effect. So that's just what I've seen.
Yeah, that's interesting that you're putting together the warm audiences. What's also intriguing is that Facebook has this just built-in retargeting, where if they notice people going to the website, they are going to show that person more ads. or
Yeah.
they notice that someone's looking at similar websites because the pixel's firing in those websites, and Facebook is knowing that, oh, they're looking at a similar website. They'll show your ad. It's almost like this form of cold traffic retargeting that you're not explicitly setting up. That's another thing I've had challenges with. People talk about how effective retargeting is, and I've seen it be really effective in certain cases like e-com. And then for education, I haven't seen it nearly as effective. I'm not sure why, but I think some of that is the mechanics of the Facebook. And like if you set up a conversion campaign and you have a small audience in the first place because retargeting audiences naturally are small, like someone who's applied and then they haven't booked a call, but you set that up and then Facebook only targets a small portion of even the small audience, and you hardly get any real engagement from that. But then if you try to change that to a traffic campaign and get more of the audience to see the ad, then it often shows it to people during a time of the day when they're not going to convert. So it is challenging, even though I'm making these ads to address objections and things, and I feel like this could work, but then oftentimes it doesn't. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, everything about Facebook ads is a little bit kind of luck sometimes too, right? It doesn't always work. It's not always logical, which drives me nuts. But yes, I have seen a correlation between good organic engagement, like active Instagram and Facebook accounts, and better performing ads. And to me, that makes sense because I think, first of all, you have more people in the audience who are active on the platform anyway, so they're already interacting with the content that you're putting out, and then also I think Facebook wants to reward people, right, who have, because that's what they want. They want people to stay on the platform. Ultimately, they don't want to have people leave the platform, because that's going to drive down their value. So they want to have people to be very happy and on their platform all the time. So if you're doing that, to me, it makes sense that they're going to reward you for that. And I think the other thing too is when you have a lot of people just interacting with your stuff, when they see an ad, I think they're more likely to also interact with it early, because I have also found that Facebook does reward you if you have some early positive engagement and interaction on your ads too. So it really just works all at once, all together, really, I think.
I've seen that. If campaigns don't get enough conversions assuming it's a conversions campaign, in the first 24 hours, that campaign doesn't tend to really do much, or doesn't tend to perform well after that. It's just sort of like unwritten rules. You just kind of notice when you're running traffic, right?
Yeah, and for a whole bunch of different things. Yeah, it's very, and then I'll run a campaign in an account that just works and it makes zero sense, but it's just, that's the way that account works. So, I don't question it. If it works, you just got to roll with it.
Just for that account.
Yeah. So some things are just weird.
Maybe that pixel was trained in a certain way, or something. Yeah, it's weird. Like some of the things really don't completely make sense, because Facebook has data on these different things behind the scenes that we just can't see. I don't think they fully understand it either, because if you're dealing with machine learning, the machine is learning, and it's not like you're learning exactly what the machine is learning. So the human being is like,
you're saying it's Skynet, right? Like,
yeah, at some point, when you've got machines learning or running these algorithms, the people don't completely know exactly how it's working. They have some general idea of the framework or how they set up the algorithms, but in specific cases, they can't really tell you exactly why the algorithm did exactly what it did.
Yeah. But just to kind of move away from ads for a moment, like, what are other ways that you think you could improve trust within a funnel?
Other ways to improve trust within a funnel. Sharing success stories is something we do every week. And that is one of the things. But one of the things I've started doing with that is trying not to make it sound easy that the person got a result. I try to put in like the struggle that the person went through, and I am reinforcing nowadays that this might be a terrible path for you. Like doing pre-hard tech sales in general, it might be a terrible career path for you. So I've started putting that like really at the top of emails. Like, this might be a terrible path for you, or it might be great. Here's a story that might help you clarify that. We have other options to help you clarify that. You can talk to us. You can watch this video. There's all these different ways for you to get clarity, because ultimately good salesmanship is really about giving people clarity. So to the extent that we're doing that, we're embodying that, but at the same time saying that you can join a profession that helps you do that. But reality is that our offering and tech sales in general is a terrible path for many people. It's just not the right career path for many people. So, but it's again like a contrarian message that is true. So, the more I emphasize that, the more it seems like, oh, you're not just trying to get everybody in. Like that's what normally a scam would do. So, we have to try to not sound like a scam because we're not at all that.
Yeah, and that's
And
so because you're trying to tell people, hey, get out of my funnel if you don't fit.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I tell people I give them instructions on how to unsubscribe. Like it's okay, don't worry about it. Just scroll down below, click that button, you can unsubscribe, or click that link.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that it at the same time, I think there's two things at work there, right? It seems to me there's the scarcity mode because as soon as you tell them, hey, this isn't right for you, they want it more. And then, and you're right, and you're doing something opposite, contrarian, so it builds more trust.
Yeah, being vulnerable too. That's one of the big ones.
That's
I
a good
think I
point.
first learned about that by example. I mean, we're all human beings. We all kind of know about that growing up because you just have your humans bonding with people when you're vulnerable, they're vulnerable, you're sharing, right? And from a marketing standpoint, I think back in like 08, 09, when I was watching a lot of Frank Kern stuff, he's doing these big launches and he was teaching more. He was talking about how vulnerability, sharing his struggles about living in a trailer and all the different things he went through when he was coming up. And he shares about him in a funny way. So you laugh with him, you bond with him, like he's sharing how he was just struggling, and he got divorced, he had to move across the country. Even here, he lost his house, he lost everything in that divorce, and then he had to rebuild his life. His uncle almost died, his new wife almost died. It was just really hard, right? And he shares about these things, and you feel like, wow, you feel like a very human connection with him. One of the challenges is that people believe that you can do it because they see your success, and that's assuming that they get past their doubt about you, that they start to believe like, oh, well, Leanna did do it. She can do it. She's good at Facebook ads, but can I do that? I mean, she sounds like she's just like a natural savant at this stuff. And I don't know if I can ever, reach any kind of level of success with this. So that's the biggest trust issue is actually with them. Do they trust that they can do it? And
relatable,
that's the hard
right?
part. Yeah. So like, for example, I sent an email to our list last week, and the subject line mentioned like anthropology to, some success in tech sales. And just the fact that I put that in there, someone responded and said, hey, I studied anthropology. Maybe I could do this too. And it had really nothing specific to do. I wasn't trying to emphasize anthropology as like, I don't think there's a large segment of our list who studied anthropology. I don't think that at all. But this particular person whose success story I was sharing did. And I was just using that as an example of, you don't have to have any experience with this. You can come from anywhere, no sales experience, no tech experience, and you can have success. But it resonated with them because they shared that same background. And so the more that we have, like, for example, we have a reviews page where you can actually filter. There's drop-down filters. You can filter by age and location and gender and a couple other things. And we're adding education because that is something that people are skittish about too. Like a lot of people are like, I don't have a degree. That's a common objection. Could I actually do this? Because nobody wants to hire me, and I'm kind of limited to all these retail jobs or whatever right now. And so when people see they're able to filter for people that are matching their own traits, that also helps.
Okay.
So it's all these different things, but a lot of people don't engage with that. They don't, and they just, so it's kind of a chicken and egg problem, because when people don't trust, they're not taking the actions to go deeper. And so you've got to find creative ways to get people to go deeper and actually take those actions to find out that you can potentially do this, or it's not right for you.
The way that you're describing being vulnerable in sharing the stories reminds me of what a term I learned from Ben Atkins. He talks about having your Superman and your Batman people. So have you heard this?
Superman and Batman? No.
Okay,
I studied, like, one of my mentors was Terry Dean, and he has a superhero like archetype and how you can but it's a little bit different what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's actually less cerebral, probably.
Yeah.
It's more like
Well, one of the things he talks
pretty,
about is sharing your vulnerabilities, because every
yeah,
superhero has like a weakness. Like
that's true.
Superman has kryptonite, right?
Hmm.
So what
But
is your kryptonite?
Superman
You could share
is not human, right? Superman's an alien. So from a relatability perspective, I can't relate to Superman because he's an alien. So I'm never going to be able to turn back time, have the super strength because I'm not an alien, right? But
that.
and so that's a problem sometimes because, like you said, oh, like you were just saying, oh, I can't do it like Leanna does because she's like this savant or she's like this person, like unattainable. There's no way I can be her, right? And then you have Batman. So what's Batman? He's a guy who
He's
has
a
a lot
guy.
of toys.
Yeah, it's true. He's a wealthy guy
So
who
or
has a
maybe
lot
it's
of toys.
Iron Man, right? Like you just put on the suit, you have the toys, and in theory, you could be Batman, right? You just need, if you had the exact same suit and the cars and everything, you could have them. So you always want to have those. And the Batman, I think what you're doing, especially like you just mentioned with the anthropology message, and that was that person's Batman, right? It's just you just have something a bit extra that they don't have, but it's totally attainable because I'm just a human too. So if I had his stuff, I could be Batman too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anything you can do to really relate with people so they can say, "Oh wow, that's similar to me. He came from or he or she came from a similar place that I'm in or that I've been in, and they can do it. Maybe I can do it."
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing that I've seen. People really struggle with that the most. We
Mm-hmm.
always have to prove ourselves trustworthy as a company still, but like even beyond that, just if we get beyond that with a given person, then they have to start to believe that they can do it.
Right. Yeah, so it sounds like I mean it's not complicated. It's just collecting those stories and presenting them like you said in that vulnerable way, right?
Yeah, and doing it, I guess you have to share it. You have to be consistent in sharing, and you have to have a whole variety of stories. We have hundreds, which is nice, but you have to like consistently share and like do it across various channels because you just never know what they're going to see and where they're going to see it. As you were talking about, you don't know actually know what they saw exactly, and then what got them to convert. Like often when people join, I reach out to some of them. I can't with everyone anymore, but I reach out and I ask them like, what was your journey? What were you looking for? What helped you to understand this and to clarify that this is right for you, that kind of thing. And it's insightful
Yeah.
because people will tell me like, oh, I saw this interview that you did with this person. That was powerful for me. Like, oh, wow, I would have never known that if I didn't ask them that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and that's another thing too that adds trust. It's not scalable, and we talked about it last time too, where you're personally reaching out to people, and it's also contrarian, right? Because not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, that's true. It adds that human element because one of the things that people are wary of, especially when you automate everything, like this automated drip email sequence and from our CEO, and it's kind of nice that he's on the emails and you see his face and everything. But behind everything, people are. And I see people asking more and more online: "Is this a bot? Is this a bot?" Like it's a question people ask. They have that in their head now,
Mm-hmm.
and they like when you send them a text. Also, they're wondering: Is it just an automated text, or is there someone really there?
Mm-hmm.
Am I actually talking to a real person? So like
Which is
LinkedIn, for example,
fascinating to
people
me.
feel like it is a real person because LinkedIn is a more high trust context
Mm-hmm.
than other social media platforms like Facebook or TikTok,
Interesting.
etc. If you message someone on LinkedIn, they automatically will ascribe a higher level of trust to you. They don't automatically think you're a bot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way in terms of the context of the platform as well. But
Yeah.
I do find it fascinating though that, and maybe it's a certain segment of people because I mean we're marketers, so we know like this is a fake live, or we know that we pretty much have an idea if something is automated
This
or not.
this is not a
But does it
fake live
really
stream.
matter, right? Because how many people feel affection for Siri and Alexa? It's not real,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? And
that's a
we
good
trust them,
question.
right?
Yeah.
So
We trust them to the point that we need to, right? Like we know we know that they're not real. I guess one of the key distinctions is not knowing if it's real. Like, if the marketer or the company says this is automated, then that's being transparent about it, right? Whereas if a company tries to put on something and it says live and it's not live, then you can start to lose trust on that.
Mm-hmm. But but I think part of it too is when you're using Siri or Alexa, you're using it frequently, and then over time, and usually it's right, or you go to depend on it, and that goes back to my content marketing approach, because I figure, like, if I can, even if they don't like me or they don't trust me at first, if I can just be in front of them often and show that I'm not saying anything wrong, I think that just psychologically they're just going to start, having me as part of their life. And so then they'll start trusting me because they're used to seeing me all the time. The way that you see Siri, or you see Siri, or use Alexa and Siri, you hear them all the time and you get used to their voice, you get used to the sounds. And I think you just start trusting them and you don't realize you're trusting them.
That's true. It's a very organic, natural process.
Right.
And the beauty of that is that it is like the human bonding process. You bond with even things that aren't human.
Yeah. So what if there was like a sunny bot?
They're meeting your needs.
Yeah. That just popped up everywhere. I think it might be interesting to do, like, my friends have this software called Lead Bubble that you can just put this sort of animated GIF in the bottom of any page, and then if they click on it, it opens up to video. I'd be really curious if you did a test of putting you on there on a whole bunch of different pages, just so you up the frequency of you talking to people, and see how that affects, sort of how fast they go through the funnel.
We've had chatbots on the website with other people's pictures, like our director of admission, for example.
But I'm talking about like a video. Like they pull it up and it's a video, and it's just you saying, either giving them a tip about anthropology, or just saying, asking them a question. I think it should be a video. Yeah, because there's chat, but I'm thinking like a video on there.
Is Lead Bubble, does it pop up a video and then let them chat?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, it can do a whole bunch of different stuff, but what I love about it is and there's other software too, I think, that does it, but I've been playing with Lead Bubble and it pops up a video, and I'm curious now if Sunny shows up on a whole bunch of different pages with just like a little tip, or a question. And sometimes it's just a tip, right? You're not asking them anything. And then you say, hey, if you want to chat, click here. And I think it'd be an interesting experiment.
That would be interesting, because I haven't tried video. It's been just like the normal kind of chatbot pop up with someone's picture on it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the questions we get through that are just like junk questions. Like, most of the time it's not very useful to them or for us, because, like, I shouldn't say we answer the questions on the website, because we do, but they haven't seen that yet. I guess they haven't seen our FAQ or whatever. And not everyone's going to look and find exactly what they're looking for. They're going to just do the convenient thing. But a lot of the questions aren't really quality questions. So,
and that's why it's a bot, right?
So
to like filter it all out. Yeah.
The other thing with that I would hesitate about is like the response time, because I wouldn't be able to respond fast because I'm just doing other stuff.
So you program it all in, right? And there's also what's it called? Tolstoy is out too.
You mean it would be completely automated responses?
Yeah. Yeah. Until it's time to go to a human. But I would do it video. Because I think it'd be really interesting, because you have enough traffic, I think. Yeah. And I know you love to test and with data. I think it'd be really interesting if you had one up there and you can figure out, like, you just start to test, see which ones get better quality responses and higher engagement, and just kind of make it a game to see like how long you can keep them in there. And then when they get to a point where it has to go to a human, right? Or you're like, hey, click here to apply. Because I just think that would be really interesting test.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to build like a really quality chatbot that can really questions well.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my worries with that, because I would love to automate answering people's questions, but how do you do it well?
I think like what I would do right now is like just have a menu. So like you have the video. Like, to me, the first thing is the video, and it's not just. Like, think a lot. I mean, I know with the whole, the way the world is right now, I don't want to see this. I don't want to say the C word and get kicked off of Facebook, but, you go shopping, right? and I want to buy a sweater or something, you know, and there's salespeople there and they approach you and they say, like, can I help you? What's the first thing you say? No. Right. So I feel like a chat bot is sort of like that because we're always asking people, hey, do you got a question? Can I help you? It's so much pressure. Right. I think it'd be, if you had enough traffic, I'd be really curious about testing different openers just to see how you could get people to engage first. And then take it from there, you know, and then maybe it's like after they engage, just give them a menu to choose from, right? Just do that. And then to me, the next one would be, okay, what are like, maybe what's a common question? I might create one video for that and then just keep giving them the menu. Like to me, I would just kind of chip away at it.
Okay, interesting. What kind of openers would you test?
Well, what do you say to people on LinkedIn that gets them to talk to you?
Well, the people I'm reaching out to are people who've already joined, but I would like to talk to more prospects too. It's been tough time-wise, energy-wise.
So what's your best opener to get a stranger to respond to you on LinkedIn?
A stranger. Yeah, I need more practice with that, but if it's a stranger,
I feel like I'm asking you how you pick up girls or something. This is like
I'm trying to think about like what they want when I'm thinking
Yeah.
about what do I write? Like what is the goal that they have? And in our case,
but you introduce yourself, right?
Change careers.
Like you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I would, like just briefly.
Okay. And then you ask them what? Like why you decide to apply or why you.
If it's someone who already applied, let's see. I would ask them, if someone who's applied and hasn't booked a call, I would ask them, did you have any problems booking a call? I saw you applied.
Yeah.
Haven't booked yet. Do you have any challenges?
Yeah. What if you did that on I don't know if there's a page that they're on. So if they on the complete, you know, on the completion after they complete the application, if there's like a page and it can come up, you might have to adjust the question a little bit, but just introduce yourself and just ask, you know, did you book your appointment? I don't know, just ask something on that page. That might be a place to start. Like, cause I would just take what's working on LinkedIn and I would just turn it into a video. Or you could use Video Ask or something where they can actually put a video back to you or an audio back to you.
Yeah, we actually use Video Ask now as part of our funnel, but right now we're using it, you know, as later after they talk with someone.
Because you can create paths with that, right? Like you can create a whole bunch of different logic sequences. So I
don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if they built that in.
I think you can. Yeah. So I think you might, like what you might want to do is see, like, to me, if I was testing stuff out, to me, low hanging fruit is people who already know me. So they've gone through the application process, but they haven't bought yet. So if there's some page that I can pop up that I know they're going to go to, like maybe it's the confirmation page, I don't know, whatever. To me, it'd just be almost like a game. Like, how can I get people to engage with me right there? Right. And then you can kind of get colder and colder and colder from there. But sometimes I think it's just, we overthink it. Like it could literally just be like, what's your favorite color? Because I just want them to engage.
Yeah, you can ask them. Yeah, if it's not directly related to exactly what you're asking, because that could be like an icebreaker question.
Yeah. Like when I used to teach sales, we would teach retail salespeople, don't say, can I help you? Go up to somebody and ask them what the weather's like outside. Because it makes sense. You're inside. You don't know what's going on outside. And then they start to talk to you. Boom, you got them.
Okay, so
maybe the bot does that. What's the weather like outside?
Maybe we'll let here. You up for that?
Yeah.
So you're like, what's the weather like outside? I say, hey, it's a little bit sun's coming out. So I type that back to you, and then what? And then
and you say, well, it sounds like a great day to submit an application. No, I'm not a copywriter. I don't know. But I think just like run with it. To me, I just think it's just get them to engage. They tell you what the weather is, and you're like, hey, that's great. You know, where are you from? Like you just ask questions that doesn't matter what the answer is. You know,
why did you decide?
Yeah, hey, you know, so why? exactly. It's like, why did you decide to, hang out today, right? Or come by today? Because you just want to get the conversation started.
That's
And then I
funny.
think you
That's
can
so
just
true.
start working on, because it's not sexy, but I just like chip away at stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
when I'm
Yeah.
doing
Me too.
ads and things like that, right? Like you do too. So I just think it's just, you just get one, you start unlocking each level. That's how I see it as. So I think the first thing is always, can I get them to engage? I did same thing with Facebook groups, right? You got to put up easy questions, and some are like, "Where are you from?" Then everybody writes where they're from, right? And it doesn't matter, but you got engagement, and now you can kind of take the conversation further.
That's
But
true.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
think it can be simpler. It doesn't have to be as complex.
Yeah. That's a good point. And oftentimes, just to start a conversation, I think you mentioned like picking up girls, and some of the pickup artists are like, you know what the number one pickup line is? Hi. Like, oh wow.
That
Because
is kind of true, isn't
because
it?
people forget that I always think about like, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? How about saying
Right.
hello? How about saying hi? And then having a
Maybe test
normal
that.
conversation. Yeah, like having normal, like what's the weather like? And people know that that's like just a it's a kind of shallow question, but it's not meant to stay at a shallow level. It's meant to just be an opener. It's meant to just
Yeah.
help the person and you also just ease into a conversation
Yeah.
without walking up to them and asking them what's your life purpose or something like that.
Yeah. I think I'm going to try this too. I'm building out a funnel for ad skills affiliates to be an ad because I'm an affiliate. So I think I'm going to try that too. So you try it and I'll try. Maybe we can reconvene it and compare our results.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be funny if you go to the ad skill site and it says, "What's your favorite color?"
I'm going to try something because I'm going to have different pages, but we can kind of go over that in a different call. But yeah, I'm going to have different pages. I'm trying to think of, what bonuses I want to do because I'm always a big bonus person. Yeah, and I'm thinking I'm going to record videos, put my lead bubble thing on there, and just to see how I can engage people.
You could
Because like,
do.
what have I got to lose, right? Like, what's the weather like? And so if anybody's watching and they see that, please respond.
Leanna's behind it.
That's right.
For marketers, you could be like, "What's your favorite button color?"
Yeah, exactly. So, or like you said, maybe it's just hi.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Like online on a bot, I'm not sure if they would engage
You
with
probably need
hi.
more.
But if you ask them a question, it's really easy for them to answer. I mean, Ryan Levesque teaches that as part of the intro
It's
to the
ask.
survey. It's like
Yeah.
ask, like the first question, make it really really easy for them to like no thought required. Are you a man or a woman? Like something like that, where it's just really really easy for them to
Hmm.
tell you something.
Yeah. Because I think too, people don't want to feel like they're in school. They don't want to work harder than they already are. So don't make them think too hard. Because if I get an email or somebody asks me a question and I know, okay, I got to research something or I don't know the answer right away, I'm just going to leave. And you have every intention of coming back, but you probably don't. Whereas if it's something that's really easy, like you're in a mall, like which way is the exit? Okay, I can tell you that, right? And I don't have to think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. With any test, that like if you put a bot on a page and you had X conversions before, you want to make sure that you don't decrease your conversions.
Yes. Yeah.
So you do have
But
to
it's
measure these
testing,
things.
right? So you
Yeah,
gotta just A/B test it out and,
yeah,
I think see, and maybe I think like I have to go soon, but that might be a really good topic to talk about another time too, just the mindset in testing, not being afraid of failure and things like that.
yeah. One of the things with A/B testing I've learned is most of the way most people do A/B testing is, and the way I was doing it with 50-50 split is a really bad way of doing it much of the time, because if you have something that's working and you're testing something new, then I don't think it's wise to give 50% of the traffic to the new thing that might completely bomb. I suggest doing like 80-20, like keep 80% of the traffic on the thing that's working and then 10% or 20% on the new thing that you just don't know it's going to work.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because what I've done, I a lot of my great ideas tend to be terrible. Like they just don't work. And that's kind of the nature of the game, right? So I was doing like these 50-50 A/B splits, and then these new tests would just completely bomb. And I was like, oh my God, like this whole test period turned out to be overall terrible for us because 50% of the traffic didn't convert well. And then only 50% are kind of at that baseline level that we were used to before. So if you can restrict that test to 10 to 20%, then you're in a much safer position. And then as it works, then you can scale it up to say, that was working. Looks like it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Let's scale it up to 30%, 40%, 50%.
Oh, I like that.
But not start at 50%.
Yeah. I like that. I really, really like that approach. And I think that's a great tip for everybody to kind of sign off on with. You can follow it. You're right. It's not as scary. And it's just too bad that a lot of the tools that we use, you just press the button to A/B test, they immediately go 50-50.
Yeah.
So,
And it doesn't make sense.
yeah.
It's something that is just too much risk. And
Yeah.
risk management overall is something that most marketers are not nearly focused enough on, media buyers in particular, because they're managing lots of money. That's something that, for whatever reason, doesn't get talked about that much. Really measuring risk is a huge thing that is important.
I'm going to have to get our friend Scott Bell on with us when we talk about that too, because he's a big Jay Abraham fan, student center. And I know, like, I was in a Clubhouse room with Jay Abraham, and Scott was prompting me like what to ask. And it was about risk management, right? And learning how to apply that. You're right. Nobody really
that's
talks
cool.
about that.
That's really cool. I didn't know he was into it as well. But yeah, hardly anybody talks about it. I mean, I'm always monitoring pipeline. I monitor the pipeline, or you call it funnel, whatever you want, produced from each campaign. Because every given campaign is producing leads in your pipeline or funnel, and they go a certain percentage of the way, and different leads get to different stages. But then you have to be able to estimate like how many of them are actually going to convert, and what's that going to cost me when they convert. And then if that number is too far out of whack, then to be able to cut that. But it takes a lot of setup. There's a lot of tracking and setup and analytics setup involved in that, and it's just a pain. I'm surprised that more tools aren't like dedicated to that.
Because you haven't created one yet, Sonny.
Yeah, I mean, some people ask me like, this is how I do it, but I had to do all this setup. Like, there's no tool that just does pipeline projections the way I'm thinking about it. So it's.
And you're always so busy. I wish I could clone you, because every time somebody has a question about that, I'm like, Sonny can do it. But then
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could just not sleep and just work, because I love to work. I love to learn. I just love it, honestly. But yeah, I just can't do everything.
That's right. Well, let's
all of this stuff plays into trust, because like if you're trying to build trust, you just never know what's going to work, and then you have to manage the risk in the process. So it all goes together. But finding ways to build that trust, as we started talking about, we all have that challenge. We all just got to keep getting better at it.
Yeah. Well, I think we've left quite a bit for part 3. So I really look forward to part 3. And I think for accountability, I am going to say that I'm going to test out that video idea on at least the affiliate funnel, and maybe another funnel that I'm building. And I hope you'll test it too, and we can come back and compare notes.
I'm going to look at Lead Bumble. I'm definitely going to take a look at that. That's interesting.
Yep.
And we'll keep testing things.
Okay, great. Well, anyway, I hope you have a great week, and we will be back soon, definitely, for part 3.
It's always fun, Leanna.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Let's do it. All right. Bye.